Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in America today. Welcome to our hands-on hangout for the YOUmedia community site. Today we're going to be talking about the MaKey MaKey, and we have three panelists here. And so if everyone could just introduce themselves, and then I'll introduce myself at the end. Cody, would you like to start?
Sure. My name is Cody Coltharp, and I am the game design mentor here at the Smithsonian Hirshhorn Art Lab Plus.
Corey, would you like to go?
Sure. Hi, I am Corey Wittig. I am the digital learning librarian at Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. We run a program called The Labs here. Hello.
And then we have Sari, who's one of the lead contributors with me.
Hi, I'm Sari. I am a maker mentor at MakerJon, which is based out of the Free Library of Philadelphia. We were formerly doing after-school youth programming exclusively, but we've now transitioned to doing some multi-generational programming as well, working with adults, which has been exciting.
And I'm AJ. I'm from the Lawrence Hall of Science in Berkeley. And I run the Tech Hive, which is our makerspace that we have at the museum. All right, let's get started. I have got a little presentation to go to keep us on pace in this hangout. And today we're talking about the MaKey MaKey. And if you don't know what the MaKey MaKey is, this is the MaKey MaKey. It is a great educational toy / tool. For those of you who've heard like Arduino or like electronics or circuits, I think the MaKey MaKey is based off the Arduino, and it's actually a much easier tool to get started with making and electronics and all this stuff. So I totally recommend if you like haven't done any kind of anything with electronics or like programming or anything like that, I would start with the MaKey MaKey. So the computer. Whatever you can do with a computer keyboard or mouse, you can basically do with the MaKey MaKey, because when you plug it into the computer thinks it's a keyboard and mouse. And so whether it's like a video game or like a custom program that you make on the computer, like the MaKey MaKey allows you to make your own button or key, which is why it's MaKey. You make your own key, and you can control things on your computer. And so today, Cody, Corey, and I are going to give examples of how we use the MaKey MaKey in our programming, and then we'll open it up to questions at the end. All right? So let's start with Cody. Cody, would you like to start with explaining what you do with the MaKey MaKey?
Sure. So first of all, for those unfamiliar with the Art Lab, it's a teen-only drop-in studio, and so we are teens only. And part of our hesitation with using the MaKey MaKey is that it's got kind of a stigma as being maybe for elementary to middle school kids. So a large part of our time went into trying to figure out how to make it really cool. So another thing that we like to do in general is have a really low barrier to entry to learning this tech stuff, and the MaKey MaKey definitely has that ability to like plug and play and instantaneously have the ability to make really cool stuff or have instantaneous interactions with it. So that was part of the reason why we chose it. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about how we've used two kind of workshops with the MaKey MaKey. They're within our last and current semester of what we're doing here. And what we like to do is start really, really baseline and have, like I said, a low barrier to entry but a really high success rate. So with the first slide, we have, here we go. We were using, oops.
Sorry.
We were using emulation. I realized that a lot of the kids hadn't played the old school Nintendo systems that I grew up with, which were easy on the front in that there are like up, down, left, right, B, and A. And am I still here?
Yep,
okay.
You're still here.
So easy on the outset in that it's really simple mechanics, that you have a simple controller. and like devastatingly hard in the actual mechanics of like you only actually have 3 lives. So that was really interesting to me to see how they were actually going to like these old school Nintendo games. And although a lot of them had heard them, most of them hadn't played most of the games that we had there. They'd played maybe Mario and maybe Mega Man. But other than that, all these games, they knew the characters, but they were totally unfamiliar with the actual games. So they were really, really excited to play. I know Corey's going to talk a lot about it. As a kind of a reminder, emulators are slightly illegal unless you have the actual games. So I was going from the concept that I have all these games, so I was emulating the games that I have at home. I didn't download any of the games that I don't already own. So that might be something that your organization needs to think about. But the emulator that we were using is one called OpenEmu, which I believe is openemu.com, so it's OPENEMU.com, or just Google it, you'll find it. And so we were plugging up OpenEmu and playing games with the MaKey MaKey. So the concept was that they were to choose one game that was on the original NES and then design a controller specifically for that character. So a lot of the kids chose Mario, and they were designing controllers directly derived around Mario. Some of them chose Mega Man, some of them chose Samus. A couple of the other kids chose really hard things like Tecmo Super Bowl. So it was really interesting to see them kind of coming from a designer standpoint of reinventing the controller. So it's not just making games, but kind of inventing the controller itself. And so from some of the pictures you can see, one of the girls designed a controller that was like Samus Aran from Metroid's Blaster, where anytime she hit the button connected to the A button, it would blast Samus's actual blaster. Another kid did a question block in Mario, and she had a metal ring around the bottom of it, and anytime you physically had to jump and hit the hanging question block, and that would connect the circuit and allow Mario to jump. And it was really, really hard to do, but they had a lot of fun just physically moving around and jumping and stuff. So I think they really enjoyed that process of redesigning games based on the controllers and designing specific controllers based on characters. So that was the NES version. And for the kids that really, really geeked out on it, we wanted a way for them to kind of level up their skills. So we were using MaKey MaKey with Unity, which for those unaware of it, it's a software development kit that's free for educators. It is professional industry standard. Almost all independent developers are using Unity nowadays. And so it's a definite jump in that barrier to entry where it's a little bit harder to use and a little bit less success rate, but you are working with professional level software. So I tried to make that transition as easy as possible, where we were doing a 2D side scroller, and this is kind of where we are right now with the workshop, where they are drawing their own characters, either starting with pencils and paper or drawing it in Photoshop and then putting those characters into the game. And then it works really, really well with this circumstance because it's just up, down, left, right, one button, and a mouse click. So the one button does the jump and the one mouse click does the fire mechanism. So it maps perfectly out of the box to a MaKey MaKey. So they have this ability to design a very custom 2D game that runs on all different systems. It runs on all the mobile devices, but they have the ability to design all of these different characters without having to do the programming and without having to map all of these difficult programs together. So they're just designing, and then they haven't gotten into it yet. This is the next part, is that they're going to design their own controller for their own character. So I've got some pictures up here of what from the picture you can see what the actual game looks like. On the left is it's called the Unity 2D Platformer. You have Mr. Bean as the normal character, and then essentially we took that atlas sheet and they redrew their own characters. So from the picture you can see one of the kids made a Breaking Bad character, One of them decided to make like a self-portrait. Another was doing a character from a manga she's drawing as like a side kind of storyline. So they've really, really enjoyed making their own characters, and we haven't gotten to the MaKey MaKey part yet, but they're really looking forward to designing their own pads that they can use with these characters that they've created. So that's all I have right now. I have one of the games that they've made in Unity, if you guys want to see it. I saw there was an extra slide. I don't know if that's for screen sharing or something like that.
Yeah, do you want to share your screen? Totally can, if you'd like.
Sure, let me... Is that in the control room, or...?
No, it's on the left. Hover to the left. There's a green screen with an arrow. It says screen share. And you can just screen share your whole screen.
Okay, so this is the one where the character was the one that she'd made for her manga. A little bit stretched out here. Oops, wrong game. Oh no, I don't have it on this in this folder. Shucks, I will try to find it while maybe for afterwards once everyone else is done.
Sounds good. Totally fine. All right. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, or would you like to pass on and then we'll come back to you?
Yeah, let's hear everybody else, and then we can maybe do questions or say something else.
Sounds good. All right, Corey, why don't you go up next? And then for those of you watching, we'll be switching back and forth between the talking heads and the presentation so that you can like reference what they're talking about.
Okay, thanks, AJ. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that ArtLab and Cody have done is a lot of what we've done, I guess, with MaKey MaKey. We focused, I'd say, more on the controller creation than game creation at this point. You know, just these things can happen in any order, and it's sort of like you run with what, you know, sort of the inspiration is with the crew that you've got at that time. You know, for us, MaKey MaKey has been a big opportunity to get our staff more comfortable with sort of like circuit making and electronics, and you know, as AJ was saying, it's a really good entry point for that kind of activity. So pictured here is me with our Labs Tendo controller, which, yeah, I don't know, we could probably, you know, get in trouble for that, but it remarkably resembles the NES controller of yore. So actually inspired by the giant MaKey MaKey board at Lawrence Hall of Science, we created our own. It's less sophisticated, I think, but you know, is kind of similar functionally. It is really just an extension of the MaKey MaKey itself. So on the front there, it's big foil pads for the buttons, and it's underneath the foil is some coiled exposed wire, and those are like squares of cardboard. It's just glued down and taped down with copper tape, and then it's running up to the top of the board. There's a little loop, and we just kind of soldered the wire into a loop at the end there, and then we just clip alligator clips from the MaKey MaKey onto there. So all it really is an extension of the MaKey MaKey itself. The one thing we added, we use it a lot for outreach and sort of like, you know, opportunities to get teens interested and show them a little bit about what we're doing without doing like a deep dive. But you know, when we do outreach like that, and each we'll set up the Labs Tendo board and, you know, maybe play some games or things like that. We also used OpenEmu, and yeah, you know, it's not the best solution. We've only done that a couple times, and I actually had teens in both occasions say like emulators are illegal, and it's just like, man, we need to probably like talk about this on an institutional level and like see how we want to approach this being librarians, especially, you know, like whatever we may think of like the way copyright law is sort of interpreted, you know, there's probably a better way to go about this. So we're looking at, you know, even just like playing games through Steam or different things like that, just so we can like, sort of like feel all right about the way we're engaging people with this. But we have had workshops where we've had teens create their own controllers, kind of like the old Nintendo Power Pad kind of thing, or the gloves. We've had things like that just kind of come out of our open lab sessions. But this one was designed by staff to just kind of grab kids at outreach events. So last year we have an event that's called the Alternative Homecoming, and it's a collaboration between us and the mayor's office and our Natural History Museum and things like that. That slide's good, AJ. The second one, if that's cool. And we took the Labstendo there because the theme was based off of I think it was based on Rainbow Rowell book, forgetting the name. Can't remember. Takes place in the 80s. So it was all like an 80s themed event, and we had Nintendo on a big screen, and teens coming up and being like, "How does this work? This is so cool. Like, what's the deal with this?" And at this point, those games, as Cody was saying, are like feel really hard. They're even harder when you're playing with something like this. But it was a good opportunity to just talk about like, this is how it works. And the only thing we changed from the picture of that board is we created a little place to nest the MaKey MaKey board on the top of it. So you could say like, oh, well, you see it's connected to this, and this is how that works. And we're getting a lot of questions about how that works. There's a cuff you can see sort of in the bottom there, right below the start button, that is conductive copper tape, and that's how you are grounded to play it. The only thing I've noticed with this is, like an actual Nintendo controller, teens want to press down the buttons hard and feel like there's sort of like a pressure sensor element to it. But it's just that you're making contact and that it's conductive, and that's how it works. So we've had to replace some buttons when they're really heavily being leaned on. But it's been a really good opportunity to say like, we do this kind of thing at the library. You can come in, you can work on making your own game, creating your own controller. We do, we like Art Lab. We're a teen-only space, so there is that kind of like a lot of our familiarity with. We haven't done a lot of like hacking of the MaKey MaKey or making it super complicated stuff. So at this point, it's been a good sort of entry level interest factor. Come and see what else you can do in our program. But that's been great. You can see a picture there on the right. We have these programming kits that we create using, we put together kits that can be shipped from library to library and used in what we call our labs on location visits, which is where one of our mentors goes out to a branch and co-presents co-facilitates a workshop with the teen specialist at that library. But there's also a training session as part of that. So we have two MaKey MaKey kits. They include these comic book instructions. So whether we're there to train someone or they need a refresher and they've requested that kit and it arrives in shipping, they then have this comic book guide on how to use the MaKey MaKey and how that works. And if we could go to the next slide, please. There's another page from that right there. It just gives you like a little overview of how it works, as well as some activity sheets we put together for the MaKey MaKey controller face-off, how to reprogram the MaKey MaKey. So it's got the up, down, left, right, left click, and space bar. And then there's some other ports on the back for letters and things like that. But if you need any extended functionality, you kind of have to go in there and reprogram it, which isn't very complicated. It's using the Arduino software, but it's sort of like a next level thing. So we have guides for that. But really, like, this comes up a lot around this work. I feel like there's a notion that we need to be comfortable with working alongside or learning alongside the teens that we work with in a lot of cases. If someone's been hired as a mentor but not specifically for their background in a specific area, we're still asking our library workers and people to get more comfortable with this kind of thing. But that's a lot easier to do if we can sort of give them guides like these or some opportunity for training or professional development to sort of get them to that level. So as much as we can, we've been creating these how-tos and these visual guides and opportunities for one-on-one learning and training opportunities. And feels like that is moving the needle a lot for us. I posted a fair amount of this stuff, or Jesse from my program has posted some of this stuff on the community site. But if anybody is looking for specific comic guides or any of these activity sheets, let me know, and I'd be happy to post them. That's all I got, unless there are any questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, I guess that's me. All right. So our teens helped us make a summer camp called we called it a computer playground design camp, where we taught them how to make their own kind of controllers, but then we also taught them how to program and using the Scratch. And so let me just show you how it looked really quick. Can you guys hear it? I don't know.
It all starts with this. With this.
It all starts with this.
How does it work? Well, when you press the button, the two tinfoil sides complete a circuit.
And it sends a signal through these wires up to whatever they're connected to, which we like to use alligator clips and then connect them up to something called the MaKey MaKey. Yeah, which helps us with projects on Scratch.
Okay, let's hope that did it. Yes, it works.
Was the button difficult to make?
No.
No. Now you just need permission to use an X-Acto knife, tinfoil, wires, and tape. What can you make with Scratch, MaKey MaKey, and this button?
Like, we can build, like, first of all, games.
You can play games like the pinata.
A digital pinata is basically a pinata, but it's digital. So you can draw and make it say pow and do whatever kind of noise you want.
Well, the pinata sort of has one score, and with this one, you're trying to win against somebody else, whether instead of just trying to beat your own high score. So when I take a piece out, it's just like normal operation. If I hit this metal stuff on the inside, then I lose a life. What has been your favorite project so far?
Like, the project I'm working on right now. The story is this guy at SeaWorld is trying to feed his pet whale. Then there's a seagull trying to take the food. So you have to throw the ball into the whale mouth instead of like hitting the seagull, or else you get -1 point.
So you're trying to throw different items of clothing in here before the timer runs out, which is like how long you have to shop. You have to hit this as many times as you can during your turn.
So basically, you're going to mining stuff. Like here, there's also a food dispenser. That when you take a food ball out, the ball counter goes down by 1.
The good guy is the girl, obviously, and the bad guy is the ghoul. Also, obviously, when you find the rainbow diamonds, you go to another stage where you have to connect all of the pieces of the diamond into a puzzle, and once you complete the puzzle, it closes a circuit and it tells you you're done. We are working hard to get our games done in time for the opening of our arcade. I hope we can do it.
All right, sorry about that. So this is a summer camp that we taught this summer, last summer, and we're teaching it again. We have the constraint of that our summer camps are at the Lawrence Hall of Science are mostly for elementary and middle school kids, and so this one is a summer camp that we taught to middle school kids. But the nice thing was that all the projects were co-designed with our teen interns, and our teen interns pretty much helped us figure out what were good example projects to be made. And one of the things that we decided to do was to to stop or to divert kids away from making like the NES controller. While we like it, we realized that two things. One, most kids these days don't really know what NES controller is because of the Xbox and anyways. And the other thing was that we realized video games were a very boy-centric thing, so we tried to be a little bit more gender neutral with our projects. So that's why we kind of based everything off of this button. And so the next couple slides I have are to show you how to make a simple button, because I think that the button is a very foundational project that led us to all these other projects. And these are videos that our teen interns made, actually. So I'll play it a couple times because they're kind of fast. So we decreased the steps. We reduced the number of steps significantly. So these are all the materials it takes to make one of these buttons. It's just a rectangular piece of cardboard with a score in the middle, some aluminum foil, and wire, tape, and that's it. Now the first step is to fold some of the aluminum foil, attach or add some glue stick and attach it to your button. Do the same thing for the other side. Because what the MaKey MaKey is looking for is for you to complete a circuit between one of the pads and the ground, and this button. That means you need two sides of a button to touch, and they need to be conductive. We're attaching wires now, and we found out that if you attach wires directly to the keyboard, or if you attach wires directly to the button, the wires slip away. So we figured out if you make these little flags and you fold the wire within the flag, it makes it much easier. The wires are much more secure. So notice there that she's not only folding the foil in half, but she's folding the foil in half again, and the wire is getting folded within that flag. It makes it much more secure. And then the last step is just to tape everything together. So there you go. And now you could actually, ta-da, and that's it. I'll show it one more time. Ta-da. And that's about it for me. So I'd like to now move on to the last part of our hangout. Just open it up to questions. I guess we have the first question is for Corey. Where can we see the reprogramming guide, any of the training, how-to PD guides from Corey?
Yeah. I'll upload those this afternoon under the resources tab on the YOUmedia network page. Yeah, so I'll just put those up there.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question. It's sort of a technical question, and it might be a silly one. So I've been thinking about doing some more physical games with the MaKey MaKey, and AJ, it looks like some of the kids were doing something similar with the buttons, where they were creating games where there was a ball used or something like that to trigger the button and tally up points or whatever else. What are some alternate ways to, I guess, close the circuit? Because when I've used it before, there's the ground for the MaKey MaKey, and then whoever is using the controller has to be either physically holding the wire that's attached to the ground, or you know, if they have a ring on their finger or something like that, then that wire gets attached. So if you're playing a game with a ball or where something else is triggering a button like that, how's another way to close the circuit without the person physically touching it who's triggering the action?
Yeah, so that's exactly the question that we had when we made our button, and the reason, like, the first problem we ran into when we made when we were doing this was that we hold on, let me was that people, like, we didn't really want to have to attach like a piece of wire to every single person who comes to interact with our hold on, with the MaKey MaKey. So instead of having, like, here, hold this, wrap this grounding wire to you and then touch this pad, we decided to ingrain it all in this button. So here's another button we have. And so right here, this is what we attach to the MaKey MaKey, these wires. And so the MaKey MaKey just wants a signal from this side to this side. And usually it's what happens, someone holds this and then they touch this side, right? And then, but instead of doing that, we use like a button. Here, this is another button I have, where each sides of these wires is attached to one of these sides. And there you go. And when you press it, it's closing the circuit for you. And that way, you don't have to actually, have to be connected electrically to any of the circuit. Here's another one I have. Actually, I have this up on my wall. So we put similar thing. We have two pieces of aluminum up right next to each other. So these are actually not touching each other by themselves. But if you notice here, we have wires sticking out. And what happens is when you touch it with your hand like this, they both, like, you're completing the circuit from here to here with your hand, and then that's how the MaKey MaKey registers that you're touching this pad. And so those are two ways that we use the MaKey MaKey, or we make buttons to interact with the MaKey MaKey. Any other questions? Okay, I guess that's it. So we'll wrap this up, and thank you everyone for participating. Again, let me say it one sec. Again, we have all of our information can be found on our YOUmedia site. If you go to community.youmedia.org, you can find all of these resources on this site. And if you have any other questions, you can post your questions on the discussion board, and one of us will answer it or link you to the appropriate resource. And that's it. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us. My email is ajalmaguer@berkeley.edu. And thanks again. We're signing out.